Hey guys, it is Monday, April 15th. Birthday countdown is officially on. I will be 29 on Friday, so go me. And Owl is turning 4 on Thursday, so this is a birthday week. Anyway, the last week's vlog I left off, I was saying that I was hoping to finish this by the end of the weekend. Lilac Girls. I ended up finishing it that night, but I was way too tired by the time I finished reading it to make another clip and add it in to the final video. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I think when I left off, I said something about how I thought it could have ended, and I'm glad that it didn't because it actually came full circle, showed why everybody made sense. It really came around and showed you like the full big picture, and there was so much more to the story that I had no idea was coming. Like, I didn't know anything about the history of these people or anything before the book, so I thought that was really neat to see how everything kind of came around. And I was really glad that that extra chunk was on the end. It wasn't like, it was just, I think the last clip I did, I was in kind of a bit of a weird spot, and I always do that, or not always, but sometimes I do that where like I will leave a clip and then the next few pages that I read I'm like, oh dang it. And so you can kind of see my thought process, which I think is fun in vlogs because then things can completely change. Anyway, due to the romance and a little bit of like character stuff, I did drop it down to 4 stars. That being said, it was really good. I really liked it. I didn't cry in this one, but it was still really, really good and definitely tugged at my heartstrings, and just like some of the like horrible things that happened to people in this book are just, oh, I couldn't imagine. I actually earlier today, I'm back in my PJs, but oh man, I have a sore or a dry throat. I filmed a book talk on Lilac Girls, but book talks are fun because you can kind of summarize it and then like talk about all the things you want to talk about with other people who have read it. So I love book talks. I want to do them more often because they're just a lot of fun, and this book was really good, and now I really want to get my hands on Lost Roses, the new one that just came out. Anyway, I finished that one and couldn't figure out what to read next. Oh, that's gonna be really annoying. After finishing Lilac Girls, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to read next, so it was between The Outsiders and My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes. And so I put a poll up on Instagram, and you guys voted pretty heavily on The Outsiders, which I was kind of leaning toward anyway because it's a really short book and I will be able to definitely finish it this week, and then I can start that one next, hopefully, and see how we do by the end of the month. I'm thinking I'm gonna get 4 or 5 books this month, so that's pretty awesome. I've never read The Outsiders before. I don't really know what it's about, but I know that it's like a high school aged kid. I'm only, how far in am I? I'm only 36 pages in, so I'm just starting chapter 3. I want to try and get as much of it done this afternoon / evening as I can. I get the bulk of my reading done when my kids are sleeping at nighttime, but I do usually take an hour or so in the afternoon to also read while Owl just has like quiet time. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's pretty late in the evening, so I'm just going to do a very quick check-in. Earlier today, before Jared and I went out, I did manage to finish The Outsiders, and I really, really liked this book. I finished it really fast. It was a really quick read. I loved the overall message of it didn't matter which walk of life you came from. Everyone has their own struggles. I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, I just thought this was a really neat story. I ended up giving it 5 stars because I've started doing like a pros and cons list at the back of books when I start them, just to kind of keep track of things that I liked or didn't like or whatever. And honestly, there was nothing in this book that like made me go, oh, like there was nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't say it's the most, it's not overly complicated or complex or anything like that, but I feel like everything that was important and everything that needed to be said was said in a really good way, but also really simply. And sometimes that really works, and I think it's really, really cool because the the author in the note in here, it said that she started this book as a short story, and I'm not sure at what age, but anyway, she essentially wrote the book at 15 and had it published at 17. So that is pretty cool. But I loved the characters. There was a certain line where someone says that 16 isn't long enough, and that line broke my heart a little bit. My brother did pass away when he was 15, I was 7, but the dynamics of being a 7-year-old and looking up to a 15-year-old, they seem so old to you. Like, not old, but they just seem so much bigger than you. And then I remember the year that I turned 15, it kind of hit me how young I really was. And then now that I'm about 29, by the time you guys see this, I'll be 29, looking back on being the 15, 16-year-old, that was almost half a lifetime ago. It's so, or half of my lifetime ago. And it's just such a weird perspective, and like that part made me tear up because 16 is so young, that kind of a thing. I just thought that was really neat and couldn't believe that such a young person wrote such a wise novel. And I loved Ponyboy. I loved his character. I loved his friendship with Johnny. I loved the dynamics between him and his brothers. It very much reminded me of, and I know a lot of people hate this book, but Bridge of Clay. I guess, see, this book is reminding me of other stories that I know, but this one probably came first, or did come first in this case. But it kind of, the brothers in this book kind of reminded me of like the Dunbar brothers from Bridge of Clay, where it's like essentially a bunch of parentless boys. They're all kind of like rough and tumble, but they're like also sweet on the inside. And I just like, I'm a sucker for that kind of like trope with like parentless boys who are like bad but also good. I don't know why, but like that always tugs on my heartstrings, and like sibling relationships really get me. So I really loved this book. I thought it was really good, and now that I have finished that one, I am going to finish My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes next, and we'll see if we can knock this baby out by the end of the week. Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today is actually Owl's birthday, so this morning we had to go to her JK orientation thing. They get to like ride the bus and look around the classroom, so that's what we were doing this morning. And now it's kind of cloudy. It is so nice and warm, at least warm for springtime, out today, that we decided to play outside instead of going in. Not going to take too much time in this clip because it is kind of windy. I made some rooibos tea, and last night I officially started My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes. I'm only about 20 pages in because I don't know what happened. Last night I was so tired I like fell asleep holding the book. I have never, can't think of a time I've ever actually done that, but I passed out for like an hour, had like an hour-long nap, and then still went to bed at the regular time. So I must have just been exhausted or something. Anyway, I'm gonna do some reading while Owl plays in the dirt and just enjoy the nice warm day because I think it's supposed to rain all weekend. Hey guys, happy Friday. It is currently my birthday. I'm officially 29 years old today, which is kind of blowing my mind and making me realize that this is literally the last year of my 20s. Anyway, to start off, I haven't read anything today, but I started, whenever the last clip was, My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes, and I'm about 120 pages in, and I'm not going to say there weren't parts that I kind of struggled with, but knowing Bachman as a writer, at least as far as I know him so far, I feel like whatever like metaphorical things or whatever, like this story or this book has a lot of sort of fantastical story like elements to it because the grandmother was like a storyteller. That's sort of part of her personality. So there's a lot of things that you read about that don't make sense because you're just reading about stories that she's told her granddaughter. But I knew in the back of my mind that these stories were gonna be like metaphors for Elsa's life. and that the characters in the stories would somehow be people in her real life or situations in her real life. So I have a lot riding on Bachman for like letting me find out what all these things mean. So I'm not worried. I just kind of feel like I know going into it that I'm going to be a little bit confused in this one. That being said, so far I'm 120 pages in, and two of the characters, one is called the Monster and the other they refer to as the Drunk, both have interesting stories. The Monster, I feel like we haven't figured out his whole story yet, but the Drunk, that's how she's referred to in the book. I'm not being an asshole. But the Drunk also has a very sad story when you learn how she got to that point in her life. So I feel like he's gonna do a lot of that in this book, and I feel like it was a really interesting book to follow up with after The Outsiders. I feel like The Outsiders, no matter what walk of life you came from, it has an overbearing story of how no matter where you came from, everyone has their own struggles, and so your worst thing might not be someone else's worst thing, but not to compare your worsts, I guess. Like, it's just everyone comes from different walks of life and everyone has their own struggles, and it doesn't matter where you came from. I feel like this sort of has another thing where it's just not judging people by looking at them, and I love that. And so 120 pages in, I have definitely been confused at times, or felt like, wow, there's a lot of this random story that I'm not getting, but I know that it's gonna make sense very soon. Like, I feel like it's gonna all make sense. And we'll see by the time we get to the end, obviously, but that's how I feel so far, and I'm really enjoying it. Hey guys, happy Saturday. It is super gloomy today. It's like just nasty outside. It is insanely windy and like slushy raining. Like, it's really gross out today. Anyway, I am drinking my coffee out of my new mug. And my kids were just picked up by my in-laws because they're taking them to see, I think it's the story of Noah? Is it Noah? I can't remember. Some movie that they're taking them to see. It's like only on today. And I just realized that our fridge is messed up. I don't know what's wrong with it, and I don't know how to fix it. So obviously that's gonna have to wait till Jared gets home. But our freezer is supposed to be obviously really cold. And so it's supposed to be set at -20 Celsius because I set it as cold as it'll go just to try and fix the problem or whatever. And it's only at -1. And our fridge is supposed to be like 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, and it's 18. So there's seriously something wrong with our fridge, and that sucks. And I am, in the meantime, going to read some more of this. I didn't read any last night or yesterday, which is my birthday. I know I told you guys that. Excited. I didn't read any yesterday just because we were so busy and doing family stuff, but I have a couple hours with no kids, no distractions, and I'm not going to do any cleaning right now, but I am going to read and see how much I can get done while I drink my coffee. Hey guys, happy Sunday, happy Easter if you're celebrating. I've tried to film this clip like 4 times, so let's see if we can get through this before we have to go. I forgot to close out the vlog yesterday, which is why it is currently Sunday. And I did finish this last night. I am so excited that I finished. That actually checks off 4 books this month, and I started a 5th one, which I'll talk about in a second if my battery doesn't die, because it seems like 2 of my 3 camera batteries are pooched and I'm gonna have to replace them. Anyway, this story, I would say it's kind of like, and I haven't read the book, I've only seen the movie, but it reminds me of P.S. I Love You, but for a grandmother to a granddaughter. Elsa is like a social outcast, which is super sad, and she gets bullied really bad at school. I thought it was kind of funny that I read this one after The Outsiders because I just read a book about a bunch of outsiders, and then the main character in this one is also characteristically an outsider. Like I said, she gets bullied at school, like she gets hit a lot and chased, and like it's pretty sad what she goes through in the book. And so her grandma, or her granny, is her only friend in the entire world. She's her best friend and her only friend. She doesn't have any friends at school. And her grandmother passes away, but she leaves a series of letters around so that she can kind of get more friends and just learn more about her grandmother before she was her grandmother. So I thought it was a really beautiful story, and in the beginning it was a little bit rocky for me because I just couldn't grasp some of it. It starts off with a lot of fairy tale stuff, and I trusted Bachman, so I just kept going because I know that it's all going to be explained, and everything was. I feel like the first thing that like was brought to light, I just was hooked at that point, and I loved it, and I loved getting to know all the characters, and I loved seeing the difference between like the fairy tale and the people in the book and getting to know each character's story. I thought that was so well done. I did end up giving it 5 stars. I laughed a lot. This book was very humorous, and Elsa's character, I don't usually like stories written from a kid's perspective because they seem really childish. If anything, he wrote her to sound way older than she is. She's 7 going on 8. And she's just a very quirky, funny little kid. I loved the humor in the book. I loved her granny's humor. She was just like such a silly old lady, and she's just so cute and funny and rascally. And I just loved this book. Once things started being explained, everything, just the entire story, it was just so good. And of course the ending had a lot of sad stuff happen and some happy stuff. Like I happy cried in the book and I sad cried in the book. Anyway, the other book that I started is actually an e-arc that I got through NetGalley, and it is called Montauk, I think. Montauk. I will put a little picture up if I can find one of the cover online. Anyway, it is, I don't really know what it is exactly. I think it's like a historical fiction, because it's set in 1939, but like a mystery of some sort, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know where it's going, but at the moment I really enjoy it. I think I'm 14% in, but I think that's like 8 chapters or so. And I like the main character, I like the writing, and it's been really easy to read, so I'm looking forward to finishing that. It comes out in June, I believe, but I will catch you up next week as I read more of that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye!